is one of the things about me that people know is I bring my full self to work, right? And so I'm a very authentic leader. So everyone knows as an example that I love sports. I love Michigan State in particular, right? I'm a movie buff. I love to golf. I love spending time with my family. I love going to the lake and doing all those things. So there's not a lot that they don't know about me. I'd say, if you look back, in time and say, okay, are there things that I've not shared, right? Like, I think one of the cool things that, I sometimes talk to people about is, post college, I backpacked in Europe for a month. When I was in Switzerland, I did this crazy bungee jumping from a cable car that was attached to the Alps. And it was like one of the most amazing experiences of my life. I don't tell that to a lot of people. So I guess I'll say that's one thing people probably don't know about me is that,
Yep.
I did that trip. It was very impactful for me. And, I did some things I wouldn't do today. Let me just say that.
No more bungee jumping, maybe.
Yeah.
What about? Would you have a book for us, or it doesn't have to be a business book, but just something you've enjoyed or influenced your thinking in one way or the other?
It's kind of an old one, but it's one that came up more recently as we were talking about team dynamics, and I talked a lot about teams and how to build healthy teams. So, like the five dysfunctions of a team is always interesting to me, right? Because you go back and you talk about, okay, there's that foundation of trust, right? And then the pyramid kind of builds from there. And I think it's just really good at its core. And I know it's a little bit older book and I don't know if everyone's really heard about it, but for me, it's super easy to read and it just speaks to what is super important to me, which is building healthy teams. And it's why I said to you during my first 60 to 90 days, I was very focused on the team because you can't be successful in anything that you do,
No.
especially at these levels, if you don't have a strong team. I think that for me, people have to understand, like, I went from, being good. You can be good individually at what you do and fantastic. But if you can't lead, develop, influence, build trust, build relationships, you can never be a strong leader at anything that you do. And so I think that really has always spoken to me. And if listeners have not heard about it, or I'd say just take a peek at it.
Where in your career do you wish someone first handed you that book?
Oh, I early on for sure. I mean, back in my auditing days at Anderson, right? Because that's all you do is teamwork, right? And
So, as a
especially,
young professional, it would have given
yeah,
you a sense of why team
yes,
building is so important. Not
yeah,
really, you're not managing yet, but you would understand I'm part of a bigger thing here, I
yeah. You
suppose.
you would understand that,
Yeah.
you got to build that trust. You got to have accountability, right, to get results and all those things. Because everything that you do generally in business is going to involve a team,
Yeah.
right? And it's going to involve that interaction, whether it's your own team, whether it's a cross-functional team. At some point, you're not just going to sit in your chair and individually do your job. If you want to be a leader in an organization, there's plenty of jobs where, yes, you will be able to sit there and just, go through the checklist and pound through work every day. But if you want to be a leader, it's a different skill set.
Well, you should. I think Patrick Lancioni, the author, should speak at your next annual gathering for free
Yeah.
after your endorsement with this one. We are up to our final question, which we ask you to look forward finally, and we're wondering what your priorities are as a finance leader over the next 12 months. What would those be?
Yeah, it's what I mentioned before, Jack, which is continuing to create those scalable processes. We're a fast-growing company. We have the Restaurant of the Future project I mentioned. We just started and kicked off in July a large-scale Oracle ERP implementation. So we're refreshing like back of the house. For me, it's we got to have solid foundations established in those core processes, and then you can start bolting on like fancy things or the shiny new toy, whatever you want to do in the future. But for me, it's creating those scalable processes. I continue to work and partner with our chief development officer on that entire process. As I mentioned, we're growing quick. Development is a massive focus for Portillo's as we move forward. So for me, partnering with our development team, making sure that I'm helping assess the new restaurants, making decisions around how we're building with the restaurant in the future, where we're building, is a massive priority for me as well as the rest of the leadership team. And then again, the processes on the back end and creating some of those